One big mistake that many of us Nigerians are making is that even right now, we are looking for leaders with integrity that when they get into office, they will behave well, act right, do the right things, implement the right policies for the people. We're looking for leaders with integrity. Now, how is this a mistake? Let's consider a goat that is put in a room with tubers of yam. Let's consider it. And let's consider that in determining the goat to put in that room, we are looking for a goat with integrity, a goat with character, a goat with competence, that when we put the goat in that room with the tubers of yam, then the goat will, on its own, based on its integrity, decide not to eat the yam. How possible is that? Yet, that is what we are doing. When we go out looking for leaders with integrity, and we expect that those leaders, when they get into office, will, on their own integrity, decide not to abuse their office, not to abuse power, not to use their office for personal gains, not to be corrupt on their own, based on their integrity. We expect them to do that. It is like putting a goat with integrity in a room full of tubers of yam and expecting the goat not to eat those yams based on the integrity of the goat. Now, how wasteful can it be that we spend our time looking for that goat with integrity? Where can you find that kind of goat? The goat that will not eat the yam in that room. Where can you find that kind of goat? It doesn't exist. It has never existed. It does not exist now. It will never exist. Instead of wasting time, and it will be a big waste of time to go looking for that kind of goat that will act based on integrity and not eat the yam. It is inherent in goats to eat yam. Just like it is inherent in every human being. Every leader, no matter the type of leader, traditional leader, religious leaders, political leaders, entertainment leaders, you call them celebrities, business leaders, media leaders, all of them. It is inherent in all of them to use their power for personal gains. There are no such leaders with integrity that will on their own not use their office to benefit themselves. It doesn't exist. Even the religious leaders, whether Muslims or Christians, even traditional, the very first inclination is for leaders to use their office to benefit themselves. And this is true even with pastors and imams. It is true with celebrities. It is true with billionaire business people. It is true with frontline educationists and media practitioners. It is true with traditional rulers, as it is true with politicians. It is true. On their own, they will. You can correct me if I'm wrong. They will use the power of the office for personal gains. So the best thing to do is not to waste time going out to look for that goat that will have integrity, that we may never find, that even when we find it, will now on its own decide not to eat the yam. That's not the best thing to do. What then is the best thing to do? Will it not be better if we went and found a very strong rope and we tied one end of that rope round the neck of the goat, and we look for a very strong barrier, maybe a pole in the middle of the room, and tie the other end of that rope to the pole, such that the farthest distance that the goat can move when the rope is extremely tight, the yam will just be a little beyond it. So we arrange the yam just beyond the full length of that rope, such that when the goat tries to move towards the yam, the rope will hold it back. Would it not be better that way? So with the rope solution, we don't need to bother looking for a goat with integrity. We don't need to bother looking for a goat with integrity. What we just need is any goat. But we'll just put the rope there. That is what rules are made for. Elsewhere in developed countries, in the global north, check it. You will see that the actions of their leaders are regulated by very strong laws. Very strong ones. Those laws, they are the rope that are used to restrict the leaders. Just like we use the rope to restrict the goat. Once the rope is in effect, we don't need to bother about integrity anymore. Let the man be a thief. But once you speculate or specify in the laws that as a leader, you cannot buy properties abroad, you cannot store monies abroad, you cannot receive kickbacks from companies you give contract in Nigeria, you receive the kickback abroad. You cannot do that. When you do that, the punishment is death by hanging or death by firing squad. When we specify it like this, then we don't need to bother ourselves that the leader has integrity. If we specify that leaders, political leaders, educational leaders, we specify that all of them, so for you to be a leader, for you to be a pastor, you cannot send your children abroad to go and school. For you to be an entertainer, for you to be a music artist, you cannot send your children out to go and school. Yes, if we have laws that regulate it, I swear to God, imagine that all our traditional rulers have their children and their children's children, their grandchildren and great-grandchildren schooling in Nigeria. In fact, schooling in public school. Imagine how our educational system would be. Imagine if we had the religious leaders, all those imams and all of those pastors, all those GOs. Imagine that their children do not go abroad for an education. Just imagine it. What our educational system would be like. Imagine the same for entertainers, all them Davido, them. Imagine that they don't have the freedom to send their children abroad for education. Just imagine it. In fact, the saddest of them all is the fact that even our educational sector, they are manned or woman, they are controlled. The policies are directed by people whose children do not receive education in Nigeria. How can those people implement policies that will make the educational system in Nigeria to work? How? It is classic conflict of interest. So imagine that even our billionaire business people, they don't have the liberty for you to have the license to operate a refinery, for you to have the license to operate a bank, for you to have the license to operate anything that is called a business in Nigeria. Yes, we'll operate capitalism, but for you to have a license to operate a telecommunications company, you must show evidence that your children and your children's children and your immediate relatives, they study right here in Nigeria. Imagine that. They go to hospitals right here in Nigeria. Imagine that. All of the billions of dollars that fly away on the wings of foreign medical trips, on the wings of foreign education, all of those billions of dollars will remain in this country to develop the educational and the health sector. There will be jobs. Hunger will reduce. All of these people implementing wicked policies just because they know they have alternatives, they will stop. A lot of the people in charge of our educational and health system that are mismanaging it, that are looting funds that are supposed to be meant to build hospitals and clinics and primary health care centers, they are looting it into their own pockets. They are doing it because they know that they have the liberty to go abroad for medical care, to go abroad for education. So they won't care that your hospitals are not working because they are not using it. But if there was a law that prevented them from doing so, guess what will happen? They will be forced to make our healthcare system work. They will be forced to make our healthcare system work. That is why it is so important. It is not for us to look for leaders that have integrity. I know it will be a nice thing to have leaders with integrity, but note this, know it and know peace. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. Pastor or imam. It doesn't matter. Good or not or bad. Once power is given to you, it corrupts. And it corrupts absolutely. So you can find that man, which is hard to find, that is a leader, a man with integrity, with character. Put power in his hands. Small. The power will corrupt him. And if there's absolute power, it will corrupt him absolutely. So what we need to do is put laws in place. What are the laws that we need to put in place so that those laws will control the people? Don't come and tell me, they have money, they can travel abroad for healthcare. No. What if they don't have the required medical care in Nigeria? What will happen then? If they don't have the medical treatment they need here in Nigeria, let them die. The rest of us that don't have access or the ability to travel out to seek medical treatment, are we dead? We are not. And by the way, don't you think that if they know that their only alternative is to make our healthcare system work here in Nigeria, don't you think that that would hasten them to make sure our healthcare system work? So the argument that, what if they can't find the healthcare system here in Nigeria as justification for them to travel abroad, that argument is dead on arrival. It is a wicked argument. Because these leaders, if they know that their only option here in Nigeria, they will create it. Necessity, they say, is the mother of inventions. So let us build this solution here. Let us stop wasting time looking for leaders with integrity. Rather, let us focus on the laws that will act as the rope, to restrict the activities and the actions of these people. In fact, it is twofold. We need laws. Even though some of you will say, don't we already have too many laws? We need laws. I don't think we have too many laws, and I'll talk about it shortly. I don't think we have too many laws. We need certain laws. Prohibition of foreign medical trips, prohibition of storing money and buying properties abroad for public officials, any government official, civil servant, public servants. Prohibition of medical or health care, foreign medical care for government officials and their close or immediate relatives. All of these prohibitions will help Nigeria a lot. It will help reduce the influence that these foreign powers have on our corrupt leaders. The influence that they use to coerce and to cajole them to implement rubbish policies here that will make the conditions of living horrible for Nigerians just because they give them that slim hope that they can get these services abroad. And then number two is the fact that even the laws that we have, we're not using them. There are abuse of office, there are abuse of power laws in our penal codes, in our criminal code, in our AFCC Act, in our ICPC Act, in our Code of Conduct Act. There are such laws that we ourselves as the people, we do not take advantage of. So we need to do two things. We need to enact more laws that will help our leaders to do the right thing. And then we need to enact more laws that will guarantee social security and welfare support for every Nigerian. These social security and welfare law will prevent corrupt officials from weaponizing poverty. It will help indigent Nigerians, poor Nigerians, to gain access to the welfare support that they need without knowing anybody in government. We need these laws. We don't currently have them. Right now, the only hope of destiny helper, the only hope of divine connection that Nigerians have still go back to these corrupt politicians that have made the country the way it is. So the only way to free Nigerians from the grips of these corrupt leaders is to institutionalize the welfare support system in such a way that it is not people dependent, in such a way that people do not need to know politicians before they get access to it. These are the new laws that we need to create, and then the old ones, we need to enforce them, and we need to talk about how to enforce them. Things that are happening right now, the saga between Senator Natasha and Senator Akpabio. We have left the meat of the matter and we're discussing on the fringe. The most important part, which is the revelation that Senator Natasha Akpoti made. Nobody is talking about it, and I know that it is deliberate. She actually revealed abuse of power, abuse of office, fraud, embezzlement, misappropriation of fund at the committee levels, across all the committees, across both the Senate and the House of Representatives. In fact, the whole National Assembly. She revealed that. And there are laws in Nigeria that actually take care of that. But you see, here's the problem. The agencies in charge are not taking action. We would have expected that by now the EFCC and the ICPC would have come in to invite the clerk of the Committee on Local Content and the current chairman of the Committee on Local Content to say, these allegations that Senator Natasha Akpoti made, how far? But nothing has come from EFCC, nothing has come from ICPC, nothing has come from the Nigerian police, nothing has come from the DSS, nothing. But we can't just leave it to them. There are responsibilities we have as citizens of Nigeria, right? We can write petitions to these anti-corruption agencies to force their hands. And if we give them time, they do not take action. We have alternative. We can go to court and get orders of mandamus to compel them to take actions. And if they fail to respect such orders of mandamus, we can now institute a contempt of court proceedings against them. By the time we do all this, we will see that these single individuals that think they are more powerful than the country would know if even the breach of contempt of court proceedings does not work. We go to the media. In fact, while we are doing all of this, we are on the media to draw public attention and awareness on it. And when that does not work, we go into the international organizations. We report them to the embassies. We report them to international organizations like the criminal court, the court. You may think that these things don't work, but it will have a lot of effect. There are so much that we can do, and we must start to do them. I encourage you that we should start to do them. Particularly on this case of Senator Natasha and Akpoti, I have taken it upon myself. I have done a draft petition that we can send to the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the ICPC, the EFCC, and the police. So I urge you, because the allegation is that this kind of fraud is happening across all the Senate, all the committees in the Senate and House of Representatives, it will mean that the petition should not be coming from just one person. So I'll advise that you go into the link, get the petition, or send me an email, and then write the petition and submit it. This way, when the petition is coming from different directions, it will be impossible for the powers that be to try to silence the voice of these petitioners. Because it's also possible, if I am the only person that is writing the petition and they feel threatened by the petition, they have two options. They can either threaten or take action to eliminate me, right? Or they can call me and negotiate with me and give me those kind of money that blocks people's voices. They can give me that money, right? And if they give me that money, if I don't have sufficient integrity to resist it, I will take it and keep quiet. So you see, they succeed if it is just one person. But if it is plenty of us, then it's impossible for them to do these two things. This is exactly one of the reasons why the EndSARS protest worked, because it was decentralized. So the reason for me putting out the draft sample petition in the public space is so that all of us can, do the petitions together. Let me stop here. We'll continue shortly. I need to attend to something very, very quickly.